Hello and welcome to the Red Pill 2020, where light penetrates the dark corners of the mindset which unconsciously fosters corruption and injustice. While leading up to the Virginia Lobby Day fiasco, I took pause. Obviously, I'm an outspoken person. Those who know me would not likely accuse me of being reserved. But in truth, there are many things I hold back on saying. One of the most common and discreet thoughts occurs when someone has a knee-jerk reaction to something I say, and I silently think, damn, if you find that appalling, you should hear what I did not say. First Amendment speech is ours to abuse, if there can ever be such a thing. You can say something in the heat of the moment that you can never unsay, or you can hold back so long that the words will have little purpose. Timing is everything, and being in rhythm with what to say and when to say it is the difference between speaking with a purpose and just talking about something. When the governor of Virginia declared his quasi-martial law with his pretextual state of emergency, I felt rage welling up from within me. I try not to speak on a subject until the emotional element has given way to more rational thoughts. In the issue of Second Amendment rights, as things unfolded in Virginia, I, just as many others, openly called the governor's actions a blatant false flag. I predicted what each phrase of his announcement would likely mean, from the legal strategy crap all the way to the false panic mind twist. Nothing I said rose to the level of a Nostradamus prophecy, but how hard is it to predict what will happen directly after a dog raises his hind leg? The more you observe things, the more predictable they become. Here's what I wanted to say about Virginia Lobby Day, but withheld my words. I wanted to talk about civil disobedience. The phrase has the undertone of unlawful or criminal conduct, only because some of us are programmed to think without thinking. In reality, civil disobedience is neither unlawful nor criminal conduct in itself. In the Constitution, the government was authorized to regulate interstate commerce. It clearly charges the government with the purpose of controlling, regulating interactions between states or between citizens and states. The framers knew exactly what government regulation meant, and they were not indirect with their constitutional language. The framers were not idiots, they were not stupid. The Second Amendment did not prohibit government from infringing and then authorize them to regulate in the same sentence. Regulation of the people's right to have and bear arms is an infringement, period, if the government is doing the regulating. All regulations are not an infringement. The only time regulation can be called infringement is when an attempt is being made to regulate something that is not authorized to be regulated. Something such as an inalienable right. This is the point in which many people will say, well, you just can't let criminals and mentally ill people walk around with guns. But they're missing the entire point. If the government is prohibited from infringing upon this right, it does not matter what the reason is. The only legitimate action a government official can take regarding the people's right to have and bear arms is to seek another amendment to change the Constitution. To say or even to think that it's okay for the government to infringe on any right, that it's okay for the government to violate the constitutional restrictions, better yet, to say that you agree with any law passed which allows the government to infringe, well, it makes you part of the cause of the problem. Even if you are a gun rights proponent, this is exactly why many people think the NRA is a sellout and the GOA is the true modern day proponent of the Second Amendment. The GOA has a no compromise position. Compromise in this case means corruption. How can you compromise what is not yours? How can you compromise what is not yours to negotiate? You cannot agree to accept laws, even when passed by the legislature, if those laws are in violation of the Constitution. If you support corruption, or worse yet, collaborative corruption, as we witness every day. It is that very mindset that is the biggest part of the problem. Now, my point of view is clear on the matter. You either support and stand for the integrity of the Constitution, or you do not. Picking and choosing which constitutional violations you accept makes you a non-constitutionalist. At the same time, voicing your opinion and seeking a constitutional amendment would be legitimate and an honorable way to have your ideas legitimized in America. When it is the governor of Virginia, who is the head of the same legislative majority, who has passed laws to infringe upon the Second Amendment, would it be an act of civil disobedience to refuse to comply? To add insult to injury, if the government declared a quasi-martial law disguised as a state of emergency for the purpose of infringing on the First Amendment while doubling down on an infringement of the Second Amendment, would it be civil disobedience to refuse to comply? Now that the lobby day has passed and the governor got away with the infringements, what mindset message has been sent to other state governments with the same agenda? A model has been developed now, and an attempt is being made to use this event as an example of how gun owners should behave obediently. Some claim that the majority of the Virginian voters support this unconstitutional set of laws. Even if that's true, the minority group stands for the legitimate integrity of the Constitution. And let us not forget, they are armed. So, why does this claimed majority not attempt to simply amend the Constitution? Why must it be done through unlawful collaboration and corruption? Because, my friends, the politicians who seek ultimate power in the comfort of their own armed security knows that when constitutional amendment is discussed, even the anti-gun groups will hesitate to unleash the government from its restricted powers. What if the gun-owning citizen of Virginia had pushed down that imaginary safety fence and peacefully marched right up to the Capitol building bearing their arms? Would the police stand down, or would the police gun them down? Let's just imagine what people would think. Would anti-gun groups shout, "Kill them all"? Better yet, what would the politicians think? Presuming that no government cop would have opened fire on peaceful citizens, I believe the politicians would react just as the framers of the Constitution predicted. They'd realize their mortality is no more infinite than that of any other flesh and blood human. They would realize that they did not set a very good example of how to disarm the citizens. And don't think for a minute that total disarming is not the goal. It is that known goal that supports a no compromise position with the GOA. There's an old saying, God made man, but Smith & Wesson made man equal. So, what was really accomplished in Virginia? I said it with subtlety in the January 20th video, that showing up to exercise your right without having 100% of your rights in full force and effect is like not showing up at all. But you know what? I was wrong. I now think it may have been better if nobody showed up. I mean, if you're not going to at least stand for your rights at the expense of a little bit of civil disobedience, you might be thought of as a bluffer or a bad poker player. I have the utmost respect for the Virginians and all Americans who put forth an effort to hold government in its legitimate place according to the Constitution. I have given more thought, with great consideration, and with all knowledge and experience I have. I fear infringement proponents won on January 20th and now are back in the huddle, carefully considering exactly how to use this victory to further their next step towards total disarming. Well, that's it for this episode of the Red Pill 2020. I invite your comments here or at the Facebook page. Hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel. To all peace-loving and freedom-loving people, I wish you well.